Hello, how you doing? I have just checked a stat and I wanted to share the lesson behind it with you. And it was the lesson that I needed to learn, quite frankly. So whether or not this applies directly to this example, I'm sure there will be something in your business or your brand that you're like, I'd forgotten about that. I started my podcast nearly 3 years ago. It will be 3 in January, which seems bizarre, but equally I can't really remember a time. I don't know what I was doing beforehand. Anyway, I love making it. I will continue to make it. It's a great creative project, but also it's a great business asset as well. Anyway, one thing that I've done is built up a really lovely audience around my podcast. So I have a really good listener base. It's heard worldwide, and I'm really thrilled. I mean, it's not kind of, it's not like top 3 on iTunes or anything like that, but it has a really good, consistent, solid listenership. However, at the beginning of this month, I thought to myself, I'm sure this would be useful for more people. And I always say this to clients, like, how can you just get more eyes on the thing that you're already doing? Rather than going, oh my goodness, I've got to launch this thing, I've got to do that, I've got to send this here, there, and everywhere. How can I just get more eyes on it? And I realised / forgot that I had over 350 episodes. And lots of the people who have joined my world, my community, on here, on my mailing list, in various other different situations, they weren't necessarily there at the beginning of the podcast. So I had this dawning, because I know that a lot of those episodes are still really relevant. I absolutely loved doing them at the time, and they haven't dated, and I think the people that I've interviewed are really wonderful, and I feel really proud that there's such a mixed array, pick a mix of people sharing all kinds of different stories. Anyway, I set myself the challenge this December to share it with more people. And I figured also as well, lots of us are at home still, we've been our son has been isolating, so we haven't really left the house that much, because one of us has been at home with him. Anyway, I started to share and reshare some of these older episodes. Firstly, having just looked at my stats, doing that has had an increase from last week to this of 404% more listeners, which to me feels pretty huge. It feels like a big leap. And on, what day are we today? The 9th of December, if I continue at the rate that this is happening, because I'm really into the data and the stats, because, that's the kind of nerd that I am. If I continue, I will double the amount of listens in a month that I've ever had. So not only will I exceed my goal, I will double it. And it's so stupid of me in a way not to really optimize that, and to feel that pressure, I guess, sometimes to create more, to deliver something different, to keep bringing new things to the table. And of course, I will still continue and endeavour to do that, and to be creative and ahead of the curve, and have this really vibrant set of skills that I want to share with people and to support you and help you. But equally, I know that I've done a lot of work previously. I know that those things are still there and relevant and important. And some of the episodes all of the episodes actually, every single one, every single interview that you listen to, there will be something that you will take away from it. And often it's the case when people listen that they go, this person's not even in my industry, or I'd never heard of this person before, but yet I'm going to do this, this and this, or I've now followed their blog, or I've bought their product, or I've signed their campaign, or I've downloaded their app, whatever it might be. There's been a really strong call to action. So this very long-winded conversation that I'm having with you is to remind you, you've done so much work already. It's all there, and there's so many different things that you can do there it. But also as well, if it's a really juicy piece of content, there's so many different angles and perspectives that you can have on it. So imagine it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. And depending on what angle you look at that, you're going to get a different set of colors. You're going to get a different viewpoint in that way. And for example, my podcast works really well in terms of lots of different platforms. I can slice and dice it and add it on this platform. I can put it on YouTube. I can extract quotes from it. I can do blog posts around it. I can group them together. So if you go on my website, nikkiraby.com, you will find there's all the wellness founders together, there's all the founders, there's all the digital experts, there's all the creatives together. So it all kind of, now that I've created it, basically, it works for itself. And the amount of inquiries that come via this podcast, which is something that I don't technically take an income from, but it always leads to more work because I've created a body of work. And that's what I want you to think about as well, on what you've created so far. So think about all those newsletters that you've sent out. Think about those blog posts that you've already created, or perhaps that really compelling Instagram post that you did where you talked and you shared a bit of your story. How can you repurpose those things? How can you freshen them up and bring them back? You don't suddenly feel like, oh my goodness, I've got no content. I've suddenly got to do something really exciting in my life to bring this to life. It's simply not the case. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you today and hopefully just give you that confidence, especially if you're on that slight knee skid down into Christmas now where you're like, I haven't got the energy to do much more new stuff, like your brain is a bit foggy. Totally, I absolutely get it. So maybe it is about going for those easy wins, and I hope today has been useful for you. And of course, if it has, you're welcome to share it with somebody. And maybe you've got a pal who you know has created some really good content, and just nudge them, like tell them or ask them, invite them to share it again, because it might be that people need to see that as well. Maybe they missed it the first time, the second time, third time, whatever, and they will be really glad of it. And I always say this to my clients, like, somebody is waiting for the thing that you have, and that can be quite a tricksy thing to get your head around sometimes, because we weren't taught that. We weren't taught that we were necessarily special and people were waiting for us, or any of those sorts of things. But I can assure you, you will have something that will so deeply connect with somebody or have a ripple effect, and you just don't even know it yet. So go out into the world and spread some magic, as they say. Thanks so much for listening as always, and sending you lots of love. Bye.